Former Empire cast member Jussie Smollett has experienced the entire spectrum of the American criminal justice system. What's interesting is he experienced all of that from one single incident. The actor started as a crime victim. Then, based on the same incident, he was prosecuted as a criminal defendant. He entered into a plea agreement, then later got re-indicted, prosecuted again, and convicted by a jury. He appealed, and ultimately his case got reversed on appeal and was dismissed. All based on one single incident. The entire time maintaining his innocence. This dude's a lot. Join me in a legal deep dive in the prosecution and ultimate reversal of the convictions of actor Jussie Smollett. What's good, people? Before we get into the legal history of this case, let's have a little refresher on the background of Jussie Smollett and how we got here. Smollett was an actor on a popular show called Empire about an African-American owned music company. The actor was openly gay in real life and also played a gay character on the show. During the time period while the show was airing, the actor made a police report where he claimed he was assaulted by individuals who used racial and homophobic slurs during the assault. Now, let's just say that the details and circumstances that he alleged were somewhat questionable. First, this happened on the streets of Chicago. There were no cameras that recorded the assault. In the allegations, he claimed there were two men. One was apparently, or allegedly rather, carrying a rope that he made a noose and put around his neck, and the other person was carrying some liquid that they poured on his skin, and they had MAGA hats, and they made statements saying this was a MAGA country. Now, I'm gonna call it like I see it pretty early. I kinda don't see MAGA men walking around the streets of Chicago carrying ropes and Clorox liquids so they can look for somebody to attack. I certainly don't see them watching a hip-hop music industry show with openly gay characters enough to know who this actor is and that he's gay in real life and that he plays a gay character on the show. I really kind of don't see all that. But stranger things have happened. A short time after the actor complained of the assault, two men he was associated with confessed to the police they were the ones that actually committed the assault with the collaboration and consent of the actor, who was using the assault to increase his profile and garner sympathy based on crimes against African Americans and homosexuals, and as an attempt to renegotiate a more favorable deal with his contract. As a result, the actor was arrested and charged with various crimes related to making a false police report. Later, the prosecution and the actor entered into a plea agreement, remember that word, agreement, whereby the actor would forfeit the $10,000 bond he posted and they would dismiss the charges against him. Now, here's where it gets interesting. After the case was disposed of, there was a huge public backlash with allegations of him receiving special treatment because he's a celebrity. As a result, Chicago city officials appointed a special prosecutor to reopen the case, and that prosecutor re-indicted Smollett on a number of additional charges and prosecuted him again. After the trial, he was convicted on all charges and sent to prison. His lawyers appealed the conviction, and ultimately, the Court of Appeals reversed the conviction and dismissed the charges. Now, the conviction was not reversed based on the evidence, but it was reversed because prior to him being re-indicted, the actor and the prosecution had a plea agreement where they agreed that they would dismiss the charges once he paid the $10,000 fine. And once the defendant, in this case the actor, held up his end of the agreement, the prosecution were not allowed to go back and re-prosecute him on the same set of facts. Now, there are two different legal concepts at play here. One is the enforceability of plea agreements between defendants and prosecutors, and the second is double jeopardy. In a criminal case, a plea agreement between the state and the defendant is a contract. Basically, both the prosecutors and the defendant both evaluate the risks and benefits of going to trial and come to a mutual agreement as to how they're going to resolve the case, like any other contract or dispute. Once that agreement is in place, prosecutors can't go back and change their mind and decide they're going to re-prosecute the defendant for the same set of facts for the same case. Now let's talk about double jeopardy. Double jeopardy prevents a prosecutor from prosecuting a defendant twice based on the same set of facts. Now notice I didn't say the same crime, but the same set of facts. That's a very important distinction. One set of facts or one incident can involve numerous crimes. What can't happen is the prosecutor indict a defendant on 2 or 3 crimes based on one incident, and the defendant go to trial and get found not guilty, and the prosecutor say, that's okay, we got a few more crimes we didn't charge him with, we're gonna go ahead and indict him for those and try him again. You can't do that, not based on the same set of facts. A good example is when someone's charged with armed robbery, and during the commission of the robbery, they allegedly hit the victim on the head with a gun, and the prosecutors prosecute the defendant for armed robbery. He gets found not guilty, and they say, that's okay, we didn't charge him from when he hit the defendant on the head with a gun, we're gonna re-indict him for assault. No, you can't do that, it doesn't work that way. I'm gonna call it like I see it on a couple different things in this case. Number one, the Court of Appeals was right to reverse the conviction. This was no doubt double jeopardy in this case. They made the right call. Secondly, I do agree that the case was handled the right way the first time. Yes, the actor was on a TV show, but he wasn't a big star. He wasn't even the star of the show. So when you consider the fact that he was not charged with a violent crime, he was not charged with a crime involving weapons or trafficking in a large amount of drugs, what you have is a first-time offender charged with a non-violent crime with no real victim. When they have that type of case, they allow the defendant to go through some type of program where he can avoid prison and just pay a fine and not have anything on his record. That is routine. And as far as Chicago city officials getting involved, I'm not a fan of this. We see it all the time. We see public officials, having this knee-jerk reaction where all of a sudden, because there's a public outcry, they decide they want to get involved in the case. I can guarantee you, there are cases down there all the time where individuals are being let in diversion programs, in case of being dismissed for nonviolent offenders that they have no interest in. But let there be one little bit of public outcry, now all of a sudden they're going to cry foul and how this is an injustice and how they're going to take action. I do not agree with that. And that is why they got this result. And keep in mind, I'm not expressing an opinion as to whether or not he was innocent or guilty. It really doesn't matter. City officials should not have appointed a special prosecutor to get involved in this case. And what's funny is he actually paid $10,000 when this case got dismissed. And I'm pretty certain they didn't give him his $10,000 back when they re-indicted him. If I was his lawyer, I would actually sue the city for my $10,000 back, for false prosecution, false imprisonment, and for all the days I spent in jail. So, do you think Jussie Smollett got favorable treatment and should have been prosecuted a second time? Do me a favor, post your comments, and call it like you see it. That's it. Well, that's all I got, but I do appreciate you taking the time to join me on this legal deep dive. I think it's always fun to discuss these topics, tell you what I think, and get your feedback. I would really appreciate it if you took the time to like the video, subscribe to the podcast, and also I'd appreciate you sending me your comments so we can discuss the topics you want to hear about. That's it.